Hi, I'm Lily. Ever since I lost my dad to a heart attack 3 years ago, life's been a roller coaster. I was only 13 then. Fast forward to now, I'm 16 and living in a house that feels less like a home each day. My mom remarried pretty quickly after dad passed, and suddenly I had a new family, my stepdad, and two step-siblings, Rachel and Jake. Rachel is 20, and she's probably the hardest to live with. We share a room, though she's claimed most of it for her booming online art business. She even convinced her dad to install a lock on the door. Just need to keep my things safe from prying eyes. She shrugged when the lock clicked into place. But it's not just her art supplies she's locking away. It feels like she's locking me out of her life too. My presence seems like an inconvenience she barely tolerates because technically we're family. The room is crammed with canvases, brushes, and palettes, leaving little space for me. I often find my small belongings pushed aside or used without permission. My side of the room has dwindled to a corner where I keep my tiny bed and dresser, which is often piled with Rachel's overflow of art supplies. Can you at least keep your stuff on your side? I asked one evening, trying not to trip over a stack of canvas frames near my pillow. It's just for tonight. I need to sort through them, Rachel said without even looking up from her phone. You can sleep on the couch, right? Living here, I cling to what little I have left of my dad. A few books, photos from our last vacation, and his watch, which I wear every day. These things are my treasures, the only connection to him as everything else in my life shifts. My stepdad is okay, I guess, but it's clear he's in Rachel and Jake's corner. They're his biological kids. Mom tries to keep the peace, but it's obvious where her loyalties lie. Lily, honey, it's just growing pains. We'll adjust. She reassured me one night when I told her how I felt like a guest in my own home. I don't want to adjust, Mom. I want to feel like I belong, I replied, the weight of my loss and isolation heavy in my voice. So here I am, stuck in a house where my room isn't mine, my memories are boxed up, and my voice seems to shrink by the day. But I've got plans, and I'm holding on to the hope that someday I'll find a place where I can breathe freely. Then it all spiraled out of control on an ordinary Thursday. I was heading out to the library, a place where I could escape the chaos at home, when Jake caught me at the door. Hey, Lily. Rachel said you could grab her watercolor set for me. She's lending it to a friend, and I promised I'd drop it off, he said. My eyebrows shot up. Rachel lending out her prized art supplies? That didn't sound right. Are you sure? She never lets anyone touch her stuff. Yeah, she mentioned it last night. She's busy with a client, but asked if you could fetch it for me. You know where she keeps them, right? Jake shrugged casually, and I hesitated. But it was Jake. Why would he lie? Reluctantly, I agreed. After all, Rachel had supposedly given her blessing, and Jake was trustworthy, wasn't he? I unlocked the room with the spare key Mom kept for emergencies and grabbed a watercolor set. Handing it to Jake, I felt like a thief in my own sister's space. A few hours later, the storm hit. Jake returned, followed closely by a furious Rachel. Lily, where are my watercolors? She yelled, storming into my corner, her face flushed with anger. Jake said you told him it was okay to lend them out. I stammered, confused. Are you kidding me? I never said that. Those were limited edition, Lily. Do you have any idea how much they cost? Her voice was sharp, each word cutting deep. Jake shrugged, throwing me under the bus. I thought that's what you said, Rachel. My bad, I guess. Bad, you guess? Rachel was livid, her hands shaking. They're ruined, Lily. The person Jake gave them to use them all up. Some colors are completely gone. This is on you. But my voice faltered, the injustice tightening my chest. Tears welled up, not just from the accusation, but from the betrayal. Jake had lied, and now I was the scapegoat. I trusted you, Lily. I can't even trust you to stay out of my things. Rachel continued, her words slicing through the tense air. Mom and my stepdad rushed in, drawn by the noise. Before I could explain, Jake jumped in. It was just a misunderstanding. I thought Rachel said it was okay. We can replace them, right? Replace them? As if it were that simple. The damage was more than just ruined paints. It was the fragile trust that had been hanging by a thread, now torn to shreds. I looked to Mom, hoping for support, but her eyes were filled with a mix of disappointment and confusion, directed more at me than at Jake or Rachel. No one cared about the truth. They only saw the mistake, the cost, and the easy way out. Blame Lily. As the room finally quieted, the weight of isolation settled on my shoulders, heavier than ever. My space in this family felt smaller, my voice quieter, and my place more uncertain. The retaliation was swift and cruel. Later that evening, Rachel stormed into our shared room, still furious, her eyes scanning for something, anything, that could serve as an outlet for her anger. Her gaze landed on the one thing I cherished most: the scrapbook I had lovingly created as a memorial to my dad. It sat innocently on my bedside table, filled with precious memories, photos, letters, and small keepsakes, each a thread in the fabric of the bond we once shared. With a sneer, Rachel snatched the scrapbook. "If you think you can mess with my things and get away with it, you're sadly mistaken, Lily." "Rachel, please, not that. It has nothing to do with this." I lunged forward, desperation thick in my voice, but she was too quick, too angry. The sound of pages tearing was like the sound of my heart breaking. She flung the contents across the room, letters my father had written, photos of us in happier times, mementos from trips we had taken, scattered like they were worthless scraps of paper. "Rachel, stop, please." I choked out the words, but they fell on deaf ears. With each tear, each spiteful toss of her hand, a piece of my past, a piece of my dad, was desecrated. As the last pages were ripped out and thrown to the floor, Rachel stormed out, leaving a trail of destruction in her wake. I collapsed to the floor, frantically gathering the torn pieces and crumpled photos. Tears streamed down my face, not just for the ruined scrapbook, but for the betrayal, the loneliness that filled the room like thick smoke. My mom and stepdad rushed in, their faces pale with shock at the devastation. My mom knelt down, her hands trembling as she picked up a torn photo. "Lily, I'm so sorry." "We'll fix this," she stammered, finally meeting my eyes as the reality of what had just happened sank in. "But some things can't be fixed." The scrapbook was destroyed, but more than that, my faith in this family, and the idea that this house could ever be a home, was shattered beyond repair. That night, as I lay amidst the ruins of my memories, a decision formed in my heart. I couldn't stay here, not another day. My Aunt Mary had always been just a phone call away. She would understand. With shaking hands, I dialed her number, my voice barely above a whisper, filled with grief and resolve. "Aunt Mary, I need to leave. I can't stay here anymore. Can I come stay with you?" Her answer was immediate and firm, a balm to my fractured spirit. "Of course, Lily. I'll be right there." I packed a small bag with only the essentials, leaving behind the fragments of a life that no longer felt like mine. This wasn't just about leaving a house. It was a step away from a past that had been irreparably damaged, toward a future where I might finally find peace. The final straw had been pulled, the line crossed. As I sat amidst the torn pages and scattered memories of my father, the doorbell rang sharply, cutting through the heavy silence. Aunt Mary appeared in the doorway, her face filled with concern and determination. She didn't wait to be invited in. The sight of me on the floor, surrounded by the remains of my scrapbook, told her everything she needed to know. "What happened here?" Aunt Mary's voice was calm but carried a fierce edge. "They destroyed it, Aunt Mary," I whispered through my tears. "They destroyed everything." My mom and stepdad hovered awkwardly in the doorway, their faces a mix of shame and helplessness. "Mary, we can explain," my stepdad began. "There's nothing to explain." Aunt Mary cut him off, her gaze sweeping over the wreckage of my memories. "This is unacceptable. How could you let this happen?" My stepdad tried to defend himself. "We're handling it, Mary. We promise we'll make it up to her." "By doing what?" Aunt Mary shot back, her voice sharp as a blade. "By standing by while her heart is being torn apart. This isn't just about a scrapbook, it's about respect, about caring for each other. What kind of message are you sending your kids?" My mom's voice was small, almost pleading. "Lily, please, let us fix this. We can make another scrapbook, we can." "I don't want another scrapbook, Mom," I interrupted, my voice breaking. "It won't be the same. How can you not see that?" I stood up, clutching the broken pieces of my past. The pain was too deep, the betrayal too raw. Aunt Mary stepped forward, her decision clear. "Lily is coming with me. She needs a real home, a place where she feels safe and loved. Clearly she's not getting that here. But she's my daughter. You can't just take her away." My mom protested, her voice trembling as the reality of losing me dawned in her eyes. "I'm not asking for permission. Aunt Mary responded, her voice firm. I'm telling you what's going to happen because of your inaction. She turned to me, her expression softening. Pack your things, Lily. You're coming home with me. Numb, I nodded and moved mechanically to gather my belongings. Each item I placed into my bag felt like another severed tie to the place I once called home. My mom watched in silence, tears streaming down her cheeks as she began to realize that this was more than just a disagreement. This was me leaving. Truly leaving. As I zipped up my bag, I took one last look around at the walls that had witnessed my happiest moments and the deepest pain I ever known. This wasn't just a departure, it was an escape from the indifference, the cruelty, and the lack of compassion that had overshadowed my grief. Are you ready, Lily? Aunt Mary's voice was gentle, offering me comfort amidst the storm inside. Yes, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I was ready to leave behind the toxicity and start anew. Without looking back, I stepped out of the house, not just leaving a place, but moving away from the pain that had consumed me. The door closed softly behind me, marking the quiet end of a chapter in my life that I knew I would never revisit. Settling into Aunt Mary's house felt like stepping into calm after a relentless storm. Here, the walls didn't echo with arguments or simmer with silent tension. Instead, there was laughter over breakfast and long conversations that stretched comfortably into the evenings. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't just living in a house. I was in a home, a place where my feelings were respected, my grief acknowledged, and my voice was heard. As the days passed, I began to heal, slowly piecing together my sense of self and security. Aunt Mary became both a guardian and a confidant, her home a sanctuary where I could finally let my guard down. I was no longer a mediator or an outsider. I was simply Lily. I hope you feel more at peace here, Lily, Aunt Mary would often say, her presence a constant source of comfort. I do, Aunt Mary. It feels like I can breathe again. I'd reply, feeling lighter with each passing day. The weight that had once crushed me was slowly lifting. When Father's Day approached, I dreaded the familiar ache of remembering what I had lost. But this year was different. My family planned a small gathering to honor my dad, a day of remembrance and connection. The decision, however, was made without my mom. Uncle John, the unofficial patriarch of the family, was clear. We feel it's best if she doesn't attend this year. It's about respect, Lily. We all need to respect what you've been through. Though it pained me to know my mom would be left out, I understood the necessity. It wasn't out of spite, but out of a need to acknowledge the weight of her inaction. Word of her exclusion spread, and soon my mom began sending messages, apologies, and pleas for understanding. Lily, I miss you. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten. Please, let's talk. I read her words carefully. The old me might have caved, might have prioritized her happiness over my own well-being. But I had changed, shaped by the events that have forced me to confront things I never should have had to. Mom, I need time. I responded, my voice steady in my mind. What happened changed things. I'm not ready yet. Father's Day arrived, and I spent it surrounded by uncles, aunts, and cousins who respected my boundaries. Together, we shared stories of my dad, his laughter filling our memories, bringing smiles even through the sadness. As I looked around at the faces filled with love and understanding, I realized that this was what family was supposed to feel like. It wasn't about forcing forgiveness or sweeping pain under the rug. It was about standing up for each other, protecting each other, and holding one another up through the hardest times. Living with Aunt Mary, I rediscovered parts of myself that had been buried beneath the rubble of my old life. I found creativity, laughter, and hope for a future that I could shape on my terms, surrounded by people who genuinely cared. Leaving that toxic environment wasn't just about escaping. It was about finding a new way to live. One that honored my feelings, respected my losses, and embraced me for who I truly was. In this new chapter of my life, I found not just peace, but a promise. A promise to always create spaces where I could thrive, not just survive. Now here's my question for you. Do you think it was right for Lily's family to exclude her mom from the Father's Day gathering to show their support for Lily? Or should they have found a way to include her and address the family's issues together? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspectives add so much to our discussions, and I'd love to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more content. Your support helps us keep sharing these important stories. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to read your comments.